Imagine a company at the top of its game, a titan of industry admired by all. Its name was synonymous with innovation and success. On the surface, everything looked perfect, but deep within its core, a silent crisis was brewing, a crisis that would eventually bring the entire empire crashing down. This is the story of how one CEO's arrogance and a single ignored warning led to a catastrophic downfall. Let's call our company Innovate Corp. In the early 2010s, Innovate Corp was the darling of Wall Street. Its stock price was soaring, its products were in every home, and its charismatic CEO was celebrated as a visionary leader. He was on the cover of magazines, a frequent guest on business shows, and the embodiment of modern corporate success. Inside the company, however, the culture was different. It was a kingdom ruled by one man, surrounded by executives who never dared to question his judgment. This culture of absolute loyalty, of yes-men, created the perfect environment for a disaster to take root. Our story's hero, or perhaps it's Cassandra, was a mid-level engineer we'll call Alex. Alex wasn't a disgruntled employee looking for trouble. They were a dedicated, brilliant, and principled individual who had been with Innovate Corp since its early days. While working on a new flagship product, Alex discovered a fundamental flaw. It wasn't a minor bug. It was a serious safety issue that could potentially harm customers. The data was undeniable. The risk was severe, and the ethical obligation was clear. Alex knew they had to speak up. This wasn't just about a product. It was about the company's integrity and its responsibility to the public. Believing in the system, Alex followed protocol. First, a detailed report was submitted to their immediate supervisor. The report was meticulously documented, with data, projections, and a clear explanation of the potential consequences. It was met with a nervous silence. The supervisor, unwilling to be the bearer of bad news, buried it. So Alex went higher, escalating the issue through the proper channels. Each step up the ladder, the response was the same. A mix of dismissal and thinly veiled threats. Don't rock the boat. They were warned. The CEO has a vision for this product, but Alex couldn't let it go. The potential for harm weighed too heavily on their conscience. Finally, Alex managed to secure a brief meeting with the CEO himself. This was the moment of truth. Alex laid out the facts, presenting the same irrefutable data. The CEO listened, but he wasn't really hearing. His expression was one of annoyance, not concern. He saw Alex not as a loyal employee trying to save the company, but as an obstacle. The CEO's rationalizations were swift and decisive. Fixing the flaw would be too expensive, he argued. It would delay the product launch by months, giving competitors an edge. He waved his hand dismissively, emphasizing it was a 1 in a million chance of happening and that the market would overreact to a recall. He accused Alex of being pessimistic and not being a team player. The meeting ended with the CEO making it clear: drop it, or find a new job. This was the point of no return. The CEO had made a conscious decision to prioritize short-term profits and his own ego over safety and ethics. He silenced the one voice that could have saved him. In the months that followed, the flawed product was launched with a massive marketing campaign. Initial sales were spectacular, and the stock price hit an all-time high. The CEO was hailed as a genius once again. From the outside, Innovate Corp was more successful than ever, but inside, the first cracks were beginning to show. A few isolated incidents were reported, strange malfunctions that the company's PR team quickly dismissed as user error. But Alex knew the truth. It was the beginning of the end. These small incidents were the tremors before the earthquake. The ticking time bomb that Alex had warned about was about to detonate. The first major incident was impossible to ignore. A catastrophic failure of the product resulted in a widely publicized tragedy. Suddenly, the 1 in a million chance had become a horrifying reality. The media frenzy was immediate and intense. Journalists started digging, and it wasn't long before rumors of an internal warning began to surface. Alex, having exhausted all internal options and with a clear conscience, decided the public had a right to know. They shared the original report and the trail of ignored emails with a leading investigative journalist. The story broke, and it was an explosion. The headline was devastating. Innovate Corp knew. The public exposure was brutal. The CEO's carefully crafted image as a visionary leader shattered overnight. He was now seen as a reckless gambler who had knowingly put lives at risk for profit. The company's stock plummeted, wiping out billions in value in a single day. Government regulators launched an investigation, and class action lawsuits began to pile up. The pressure was overwhelming. The board of directors, who had once praised the CEO's every move, now scrambled to distance themselves. The reckoning was swift. The CEO was forced to resign in disgrace. His departure wasn't a quiet retirement. It was a public shaming. He went from the cover of Fortune magazine to the front page of tabloids. The legal battles that followed would consume the next several years of his life, draining his fortune and destroying what was left of his reputation. He became a cautionary tale, a symbol of corporate hubris. His legacy was not one of innovation, but of a catastrophic and entirely preventable failure of leadership. What about Innovate Corp? The company was in a desperate fight for survival. A new CEO was brought in to do damage control. They issued public apologies, initiated a massive and costly recall of the product, and promised a new era of transparency and accountability. But the damage was too severe. Consumer trust was gone. The brand, once a badge of quality, was now stained with scandal. The company that had once dominated its industry was now a shadow of its former self, crippled by lawsuits, fines, and a tarnished reputation. Many talented employees, disillusioned by the whole affair, left the company. The vibrant culture of innovation was replaced by an atmosphere of fear and bureaucracy. The story of Innovate Corp and its fallen CEO serves as a powerful lesson. It teaches us that true leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the humility to listen to those who do, especially when their message is one you don't want to hear. It shows that a culture that punishes dissent and rewards blind loyalty is not a strong culture. It's a fragile one, just one ignored warning away from total collapse. Whistleblowers like Alex are not traitors. They are the immune system of a healthy organization, the early warning system that can prevent a small problem from becoming a catastrophe. Ignoring them isn't just bad ethics. It's disastrous business. The downfall was not caused by a product flaw. It was caused by a leadership flaw, a flaw that proved to be far more dangerous and far more costly in the end. What can we truly learn from the ashes of a corporate giant? The story of a company's collapse after ignoring a whistleblower isn't just a tale of one failed business. It's a timeless warning about the dangers of hubris and unchecked power. When a leader becomes so insulated that they can't hear the warnings from within their own ranks, the foundation begins to crack. It highlights a fatal flaw in corporate governance, a culture where speaking up is punished and silence is rewarded. The most valuable asset a company has is its people, and when their voices, especially those raising red flags, are dismissed, disaster is almost guaranteed. Ethical leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about creating an environment where the right questions can be asked and, more importantly, heard. Look around at the corporate world today. You don't have to search far to see the echoes of this story. Think about the tech companies grappling with data privacy concerns, where engineers might be raising alarms internally about user data being mishandled. Or consider the manufacturing sector, where a single employee might spot a critical safety flaw in a product line, a flaw that could lead to recalls and reputational ruin if ignored. We see these patterns in financial institutions, where risk assessors warn about speculative bubbles just before they burst. The specific names change, but the script remains hauntingly similar. An internal memo gets buried. A concerned manager is sidelined, and the person at the top declares that everything is under control, right before it spirals out of it. These aren't just hypothetical scenarios. They are the quiet, ticking time bombs in boardrooms across the globe. The warning signs are always there for those willing to see them. So, what's the ultimate takeaway? It's about accountability. In the aftermath of these corporate meltdowns, we often focus on the financial losses, the stock prices plummeting to zero. But the real, lasting impact is on the lives of the employees who lost their jobs, the customers who were let down, and the public's trust that was shattered. Accountability means that leadership can't just be about celebrating wins. It must also be about owning failures and, more critically, creating systems that prevent them. It requires a fundamental shift from a top-down, fear-based hierarchy to a culture of psychological safety where any employee, regardless of their position, feels empowered to say, "Stop, we need to look at this." Unchecked power is a cancer in any organization. It creates blind spots and fosters a dangerous sense of invincibility. The stories of fallen giants serve as a permanent reminder that the strongest leaders are not those who command silence, but those who cultivate the courage to listen. The health of our modern corporate landscape depends on it. Thank you so much for watching. If this video resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of business and leadership. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.